Close by to Shelsley Walsh, St Andrew's Church is built from locally quarried limestone and dates back to the 12th century. It's an integral part of Shelsley, and the Sunday morning congregation before an event regularly includes competitors, marshals and officials. Around 30 years ago, the MAC held a very successful hillclimb meeting to raise funds for the restoration of St Andrew's roof. But in 2004, with the lease on the century-old hill due to expire, it seemed as though an act of God would be required to raise the £1 million plus required for a new 99-year lease. But after 2 years of effort by the MAC's Shelsley Trust and the support and generosity of club members, the money was raised and the hill's future is now secure. Not only is the hillclimb being redeveloped, but the site and surrounding historic buildings such as the watermill will eventually form part of the whole Shelsley infrastructure, together with a restaurant and museum. Two-litre single-seaters now, and an unusual car. This is Phil Jones with the uniquely Alfa Romeo powered Ralt RT30 Formula 3 car. Phil acquired the car from Phil Lynch, who now drives a Judd-powered V8 Ralt in sprinting. The RT30, a popular chassis for hill climbers, but this one uniquely with the Alfa Romeo 2-litre unit in, and Phil sets the first time in the 2-litre class of 29.82. Laurie Ritchie now, a very regular contender at the majority of British Hill Climb Championship rounds with the 2-litre Vauxhall powered Argo JM9. Laurie's car, a Formula Atlantic chassis, which was previously run by Ken Snalan and Simon Frost in hill climbing for many years. So Laurie now heads out of the top S with 29.82 to beat from Phil Jones, and he's done it with a 29.22, that's 6/10 ahead. Dave Whitehead now with the 2-litre Pilbeam Millington MP50. Dave runs his own race car preparation business in Yardley in Birmingham, and in fact built this MP50 tub as effectively a replica from an earlier one which was destroyed in an accident. 2-litre Millington power. Dave shares the car with wife Lynn. So it's a 29.22 to beat now from Laurie Ritchie, and Dave Whitehead 28.68, that's the class lead. Keith Harris now with his Cosworth BDG powered Chevron B25. The Stockton on-team builder has been competing in this car for 2 or 3 seasons now. Used to be run by Roy Lane and in fact Mark Colton many years ago. This is the Derek Bennett designed early B25 Chevron. So Keith Harris now in what's perhaps a bit of a vintage car in this class, chasing Dave Whitehead's 28.68, but he's out front with the 28.39. Now it's Bill Morris with the Pilbeam MP82, one of many cars built for hill climbing by Mike Pilbeam over at the old BRM factory at Bourne in Lincolnshire. Haverfordwest potato farmer from Wales, Bill Morris, long-time campaigner on the hills, together with brother David many seasons back when they drove a modified ensign called a Mo sign. But Bill's been campaigning as Pilbeam for many seasons now. 28.39 the target from Keith Harris, as Bill Morris over the line with the Pilbeam 28.79. Late model Dallara Formula 3 cars are becoming increasingly popular on the hill climb scene this year. This is Tim Elmer's version, the Formula 3 1999 car. A graduate from these Clubbins and Sports Leader cars, Tim Elmer took over this car from Alan Warburton and made his first appearance with it at Gurston Down earlier this year. Still developing the machine, his times are rapidly coming down, but he's going to be looking for something in the 28-second bracket to get ahead in the class at this stage, and it's a 29.78 for Tim Elmer. A different Formula 3 chassis on the start line now. This is the 2002 Ralt Formula 3 chassis of John Chalmers, running Cosworth BDG power. John, the son-in-law of Techcraft's Roy Lane. So of course his car immaculately prepared by Techcraft. And John going ever quicker in the car. British Championship points already in the bag this year, so he'll be looking to qualify for our British Championship runoffs here today. And it's 26.65. That's the class lead for John Chalmers. Now, the only car in the class running a supercharger. This is Tony Hunt with the blown Force Suzuki. Former 600cc Jedi driver Hunt has been rapidly developing this supercharged car. One or two teething troubles with it this year, but coming to terms with it. But he's got a hard task now. John Chalmers 26.65 is the benchmark so far. Can Tony get close to that? Not on this run, it's a 28.06. Paul Hames now, another of these Vauxhall powered Dallara Formula 3 cars, the 2001 version. Well, Hames, as well as trying to bid for a place in the British Championship runoffs, is also at the sharp end of the Power Mech Leaders Championship. Well, 25.73, good enough to take the class lead away from John Chalmers at this stage. The final runner in the 2 litre class, it's Tom New now with the Rover KV6 powered Pilgrim MP88. The highest finishing 2 litre runner in last year's British Hillclimb Championship, Tom New carries the number 10 throughout the season, which he's looking to repeat this year. So New looking for a place in the runoff and also attacking Trevor Willis's 25.82 second class record. Runs the car very low here at Shelsley Walsh. You can see the sparks from the skid blocks as he charges through the kink. A little bit of a tail wagging into the bottom S. But that record in sight, 25.82 the target. It's 25.39, another new class record, this time to Tom New, who takes the win and a place in the championship runoff, with Paul Hames in second place, but moving into the lead in the Power Mech Leaders Hillclimb Championship, leaving John Chalmers in third place in the class. With the class runs determining just which drivers will take part in the all-important British Championship runoffs, anticipation builds as the big single-seaters come to the line for their qualifying runs. We'll see the top contenders in action a little later in the runoff, but first let's have a look at a couple of particularly significant class runners. Sue Young has made the Shelsley ladies record virtually her own property in the last few years, and in the 4 litre Gould Judd V8 that she shares with husband Derek, to do it again would almost certainly secure a runoff place in her first year of serious British Championship competition. With over 500 horsepower under her right foot from the methanol fuel V8, Sue looks on course for another class record. 25.32 is her current mark, set exactly a year ago. She's heading for the finish line now and stops the clocks on 24.73, another new ladies record and a qualifying place for Sue Young. On the line now, Peter Clark with the Juggernaut Rover. This former sand racing machine, built by Peter himself, used to run a straight six Jaguar engine, but a couple of years ago Peter installed this 5-litre Rover V8. The Guernseyman's a regular contender in British Championship events, not quite able to match the pace of the big single-seaters to get in the runoff, but nonetheless tremendously entertaining. He sits very far forward in this machine, almost like driving a bus with a virtually horizontal steering wheel. Certainly a Hillclimb car with a difference. And Peter Clark over the line in 32.03. So with the British Championship contenders coming up a little bit later on, we move on now to a relatively new class in hill climbing, the 1972 to 1985 single-seater racing car class. Former Turner sports car driver Steve Hemingway is at the wheel here of his 2-litre twin-cam Warrior-powered Pilbeam MP52, one of the few space-frame Pilbeams built by Mike Pilbeam over at Bourne. So he's heading for the line to set the first time in the pre-85 single-seater class, and it's 29.40. Gordon Marston now, regular winner in this class with his 1600 Pilbeam BDA, always immaculately prepared by the Northamptonshire body repairman. And Gordon Marston then, 29.40 is the target for the 1600 Pilbeam driver. Steve Hemingway's 2-litre already set at 29.40, and Gordon Marston over the line in 29.02. That's the class lead. Now it's Barry Lyons in the big 5-litre Rover-powered Argo JM8. Barry, very successful in TBR Tuscan and in fact Metro 6R4s on the hills, has now rebuilt this ex-John Fellow sprint car, and this is his first outing in the new V8 machine. He'll be trying to get on terms with the class leaders. Well, to do that he's got to break the half-minute barrier, and just fails to do it. 30.86, but the class won by Peter Cox with another Rover powered machine, the Chevron B42. Gordon Marston takes second, Steve Hemingway third. On now to the Paul Matty Sports Cars Classic Challenge. These pre-1972 cars start off with the saloons, and it's Keith Wilson in the twin-cam Ford Lotus Cortina Mark 1. Sliding the tail out at Kennel Bend. These cars reminiscent of the years when Jim Clark, of course, used to three-wheel them round the circuits of Great Britain. .89 for Keith Wilson. Nigel Moss now, one of two Hillman imps in the class. Brother Ian also running his own version, 1200cc all aluminium imp engine. Seems hard to believe, but they've been going since 1963 when the first imps appeared in 875cc form. Nigel Moss charging on now, handicap class, but of course we'll keep you abreast of the scratch times as they happen. Swings the car into the S's, out of the top S now. Nigel Moss heads for the line, and the first imp runner in the class sets a time of 37.88. Now Ian Moss with his similar machine, also 1200cc. Well on his way now, looks marginally quicker than Nigel Moss's imp. Good tidy line through crossing. Absolutely flat, of course, through the kink and into the S's with the Hillman. A bit tidier. Well, runs out of road a little bit on the exit with the imp though, but 37.88 from Nigel Moss. Howell Ian Moss fair on scratch. And he's just marginally quicker on 37.14. Charles Bolton now with the MGB Roadster. The car powered, of course, by the 1800cc B Series engine, straight 4. Charles currently second overall in the Paul Matty Sports Cars Classic Challenge, looking to maintain his position after this run. And Charles Bolton over the line on 39.19. Now it's Tim Davis in the Lotus Elan. Classic steel backbone car built by Colin Chapman. The first one appeared in 1963. This a later model, a soft top version. Quickest time on scratch so far is Keith Wilson's 36.89 with the Lotus Cortina, powered by a similar twin cam Ford engine. And Tim Davis goes fastest on scratch with a 34.84. Now Chris Jones with an early model Lotus Elan S1 with hard top. Fastest scratch time then is still to Tim Davis Elan with a 34.84, but Chris Jones has got his eye on the lead in the championship on handicap time. Heads for the finish now and stops the clocks on 36.48. Gives him the lead on handicap at this stage. Now Kelvin Broad with the Lotus 7, another twin cam power machine. Still that 34.84 is the fastest scratch time from Tim Davis, but Chris Jones leads on handicap with the 36.48 in the Elan. $34.84 to beat. And he's over the line with a 33.22. Goes quickest on scratch. Now Simon Bridge with his Lotus 7. Launching off the line, Simon is the record holder in the saloon division of the Paul Matty Championship with the Ford Anglia. And he's got his eye on Rob May's record in this class, which is 32.63. Handicapped fairly severely, potentially very fast car driver combination, and Simon Bridge then crosses the line on 32.14. That's inside the class record set by Rob May. So now it's Kelvin Lee. Yet another Lotus 7. This in fact is the ex-Rob May car that held the record until just a few moments ago. Kelvin Lee, another strong contender in the Paul Matty Championship. Late breaking into the S's. Could be an attack on Simon Bridges' new record, which is 32.14. As Kelvin Lee heads for the finish line. It's a 31.62 and a new class record. but it's Chris Jones who takes the win with 36.48 and moves into the lead of the Paul Matty Sports Cars Classic Championship. Nigel Moss takes second in class ahead of Kelvin Lee. Carl Scholler now with the unique Spectre Mark 7. We're into the class for Shelsley Specials. Cars in this class specifically built to compete at Shelsley Walsh, although they do compete elsewhere of course, but Carl Scholler's unique machine, 6 wheels, 2 sets of driving wheels at the rear, motorcycle engine, dwarfed almost by that big rear wing, and he's over the line. It's a sub half minute time, 29.65 to Carl Scholler. Duncan Round now on the hill with a historic car here at Shelsley, GN Spider 2, one of 2 machines which the intrepid Basil Davenport set consecutive fastest times of the day here at Shelsley Wall back in the 20s. Twin cylinder GN power, distinctive engine note from this car. Duncan Round then slides the tail of the crab track machine out of the top S and heads for the line, stops the clocks on 46.48. So it's back to the Paul Matty Sports Cars Classic Challenge again, and now it's the pre-72 sports racing and racing cars. And first away, it's Mike White in the self-built MG Special, based on MGB parts largely as far as the suspension is concerned. It also carries the 1800cc MGB engine, built in the style of 1950s single-seaters. Mike White, a regular competitor at these Paul Matty Classic events, heads for the line, which he crosses on 41.70. Now Mike Hawley in the Healy Silverstone. Away from the line in this car, no ordinary Healy Silverstone this, it's actually powered by a 3.8 litre Jaguar engine, but a similar chassis to that with which 1950s Formula 1 star Tony Brooks made his name in the early 50s before he moved on to bigger things. But Mike Hawley always quick in this Jaguar engine machine, particularly here at Shelsley Walsh. He'll be looking for the handicap lead in the class. How will he fare on scratch though with the big car? And it's a 38.61 for Mike Hawley. Now it's Alan Goodwin with the unique Alden Ford AL3. The proprietor of Alden Automotive built this car for the short-lived F100 Formula back in the late 60s with business partner Don Laughlin with the BMCA series engine. Since been on the circuits, it's been to America, and it's back in Alan's hands now with a Ford twin cam engine installed. One of the very earliest outings of the car for Alan this season, but going very rapidly indeed. Well, this looks all set to be the fastest scratch time, and so it turns out with a 32.67. Now it's Andy Tippett with the Formula Ford Russell Alexis. Andy going great guns in the single seater this year, leading currently the Paul Matty Sports Cars Classic Challenge. Jim Russell built car designed by Alec Francis. Formula Ford Crossflow engine, the Kent engine with restricted horsepower. Andy Tippett over the line in 36.71. Now it's Grant Cratchley with the 1 litre Vixen Imp VB1. These little cars originally built in the late 60s for Formula 4 by Alec Bottoms. Featuring the 1 litre Hillman Imp engine. But Grant Cratchley been campaigning this immaculately prepared car for several seasons now, and he's over the line in 36.49. Back to Formula 4s again now with John Cottrell in the Lotus 51A. John actually leading the Paul Matty Championship in the car at this stage as we come into the Shelsley round. It's a conservative line through the final S. Straight up the middle of the road towards the finish line and crosses it in 42.10. Now Bryony Serrell, a similar 51A Formula 4 Lotus. Unusual appendages on Bryony's crash helmet. Again, another Lotus 51A Formula 4 comes into the S's. Well, John Cottrell set a 42.10, but Bryony Serrell looks quite a bit quicker in her version, and it's a 36.49 for Bryony Serrell. Now Martin Cowell in this historic Ford-powered Lotus 18. Away from the line. These cars first introduced way back in 1959 at the Boxing Day Brands Hatch meeting. Martin owns a considerable number of classic single-seaters. These cars, of course, driven by a number of former Formula 1 notables such as Innes Ireland, Sterling Moss, John Surtees. Now Martin Cowell sets his time with the car, which is 37.38. Sound and fury on the start line now. This is Roger Dean's massive 5 litre Lola Chevrolet T142. Smokes the car away from the line. These cars built for the Formula 5000. Roger Deans powers into the S's with the big car now. Fastest time on scratch we've seen so far is Alan Goodwin's 32.67, and Roger Dean's going to be close with the big Lola, and it's 33.73. The final runner in the Paul Matty Classic Racing class is Firth Cross with this unique Mallock U2 with Formula Junior pre-crossflow forward power. These cars, of course, built by Arthur Mallock. You too can build one was the slogan. In fact, Arthur used to use this car and similar ones in Formula Junior racing way back in the early 60s, as well as using the versions with wings in sports car racing. Firth Cross owned the car for several years now, also owns an Ensign single-seater, but Mallock U2 about to cross the line in a time of 36.04. But it's Mike Hawley who takes the win on handicap with the Jaguar powered Healy, and Mike White in second place. Malcolm Eves sharing Roger Dean's Lotus Chevy in third place. Now for the Paul Matty Sports Cars Lotus Challenge. Again, run on handicap, this very popular class features Lotus cars of all types, and first away from the line, Graham Parker's Lotus Sunbeam. A lot of modifications to this car, which was really the precursor of the 205 T16 Peugeot 4-wheel drive rally car, although this car of course 2-wheel drive. A lot of modifications, including a Quaife straight cut gearbox and rose jointed suspension. So Graham Parker the first to set a time in this Paul Matty Lotus Challenge class. It's 35.80. Now David Elliott in his Mark I Lotus Cortina, 1966 version, this particular one. The managing director from Shrewsbury on his way now with this 1600 Ford twin cam engine machine. Very successful in the hands of drivers such as Jim Clark in the early years of the British Saloon Car Championship in the early 60s. Developed originally by Colin Chapman. And David Elliott, 38.63. Roy Berry now with another twin cam powered machine, this time the Ford Escort Mark I. Motor mechanic Roy Berry from Birmingham, a former rally man. In fact, has been hill climbing this big valve head machine with phase 4 cams for several years now. Always a front runner in the Paul Matty Lotus Championship. 35.80 at the moment is Graham Parker's fastest scratch time, and Roy Berry second on scratch with 36.49. Gordon Morrison now in the Lotus Europa twin cam. These Europas originally built of course with the Renault 18 engine and gearbox, but of course the later versions had the Ford twin cam engine. Gordon Morrison's is dry sumped with a QED 420 spec engine of around 145 brake horsepower. Roy Berry's just set a 36.49 with the Escort twin cam, and Gordon Morrison looks to be quicker and is by almost half a second, 36.09. Now it's Brian Meddings with his Lotus Elise. Brian, a chartered accountant from Kings Norton. Driving the Rover K Series 1800 unit standard in these cars. Not quite matching the pace of the slightly more specialised machinery. He's safely through the top S now, heading for the finish line. He's just not going to break the 40-second barrier. It's a 41.12 for Brian Meddings. Now it's Chris Beadsmore with his Lotus Elise, the IT manager from Reading, driving the car which is often confused with the Lotus Exige, but it is in fact a 1999 Motorsport Elise. All the latest mods for this season, going ever quicker. Time to beat on scratch at the moment is the 35.80 from Graham Parker, and Chris Beesmore looks as though he'll take the lead on scratch, which he does with a 30.91. John Dobson next with the Lotus Elan Plus 2, the IT manager from Rugby, at the wheel of this highly developed Plus 2. This particular car with a Spider space frame instead of the original pressed steel chassis. Some 203 brake horsepower at his disposal from the QED modified BDT block engine, Quaife 4-speed gearbox. And 32.89 to John Dobson. Jane Millward now with the Lotus Elan S3. Beautifully presented car, this one. Jane in her 7th season of motorsport. So Jane Millward into the braking area for the S's now in the Series 3 Elan. Safely out now and heading for the finish line. And the time, 38.37. Richard Swindle now waits for the green light in his Lotus Elan S4. All the way down from Scotland, the chartered engineer from Glasgow is a long-time competitor in sprints and hill climbs for many years with this car. Quickest Elan we've seen so far is John Dobson's Plus 2 with a 32. It's 36.61. Ian Parmenter now with his S4 Elan. A whole host of Elans in this class. The car originally invented back in the early 60s, not by Colin Chapman, but by South African Ron Hickman, who went on to make his name and his fortune as designer of the Black & Decker Workmate. But here's Ian Parmenter's Elan into the S's now.
70 miles an hour in the front.
And Ian Parmenter's time with his S4 coming up now as he crosses the finish line. It's 40.17. Another Plus 2 Elan now, this time in the hands of Lynn Luxton. These cars still with the same steel backbone chassis as the regular Elan, but some say that the cars are even more handsome than the original version, and arranged to carry an extra 2 people, if you're very small that is. But Lynn Luxton with the Plus 2 Elan, obviously not quite such a high spec car as John Dobson's Spider Sport chassis version, into the S's now. And out. So Lynn Luxton next to cross the finish line in this Paul Matty Sportscars Lotus Challenge handicap event. And the time for Lynn Luxton, 39.02. Another S3 this time, and Peter Bottrell with his 1600 twin cam version. Peter Bottrell, experienced competitor, particularly with this Elan. In fact, he won the Paul Matty Classic Challenge within the Midland Hillclimb Championship on his first year of competing with the car.
Travelling very, very quickly on this car.
So quickest land time then so far is still that Richard Swindle, 36.61, but Peter Bottrell on course to just overshadow that time now, and it's 36.48 for Peter Bottrell. Andrew Bradshaw now with the big 4.7 litre Ford V8 powered Lotus 30. A big beast of a car this, reputedly very difficult to drive and said to be a car that even Jim Clark couldn't tame. But Andrew says while the car's a little bit big for the hill, it's nowhere near as bad as its reputation. It's his third year of competition with the car, but certainly a handful at Shelsley Walsh with the big 4.7 litre V8. It's going to be one of the quicker times on scratch in the class as he thunders the big machine up towards the finish line and crosses it at 34.23. June Matty this time with another Formula Junior Lotus. This time the Lotus 20 brought up to Lotus 22 spec. Immaculate machine this, as one would expect from the wife of the championship sponsor. Always scores well on handicap in this class. Very tidy machine now in the junior. And June Matty over the line with a 34.92. Looks good from the handicap point of view. Now it's Tony Wallen, another Formula Ford Lotus, but this time a later model 61. The distinctive gold leaf Team Lotus on the car. And in fact, Tony Wallen rebuilding a Lotus 69 Formula 3 car to mirror Dave Walker's 1971 Monaco winning machine in the same livery. Wide exit from the top S, but Tony Wallen heads for the finish line. Certainly one of the quicker times on scratch in the class from Tony Wallen. Yes, 33.43 puts him third fastest on scratch. Another Lotus 61 now in the hands of Kendrick Lewis. Kendrick's car not running in Formula Ford spec, but with side draft carburetors.
Approaching you, Max. 75 approach.
So the final stages on the hill now. Tony Wallen's 33.43, the fastest Formula Ford time so far in the class. And Kendrick Lewis over the line on 35.90. Steve Millward now with another Formula Ford Lotus 61. Almost identical gold leaf livery to Tony Wallen's example. And Steve Millward then heads for the finish line. Stops the clocks on 35.85. Now Paul Robinshaw with the Lotus 51A. Paul, the author of several books on the Lotus marque. Hybrid machine, this 51A, running the earlier bodywork on the later chassis. Unfortunately, Paul would have problems later on in the day with a broken gearbox on the start line, so his single run is a 37.45. Now David Hampton with the Formula 3 Lotus 69. John Crook's version of this car holds the class record at the moment on a 31.78, but this is David Hampton's Ford twin cam version of the F3 car. Second year of competition in this machine, immaculately turned out in typical green and blue Works Lotus colours. So heading for the finish now, David Hampton in the Ford twin cam 69, 32.41, fastest time on scratch so far. Final runner then, the governor, Paul Matty, in his Lotus Ford 35. This archetypal Formula 2 car, monocoque construction, aluminium tub of course, in the Lotus 35. This could be an attack on John Crook's class record of 31.78 as the boss of Paul Matty Sports Cars heads for the finish, and the Lotus 35 crosses the line in 31.42. It's a new class record for Paul Matty, but in the overall results it's kept in the family because wife June takes the handicap win from Lotus development driver Anthony Shute in the Expose with Jane Millward third in her Elan. Now it's time for the main business of the day, the Nicholson McLaren Aviation British Championship runoffs. This is the arena where the top hill climbers battle for points in the country's Premier Series. There are two runoffs during the day, and we'll be combining the highlights of each at a meeting in which, even in qualifying, the two top contenders, Martin Groves and Scott Moran, took it in turns to smash Shelsley's outright hill record. So as they came into the opening runoff of the day, the record stood to defending champion Groves at 23.40 seconds. First car on the line then, Oliver Tomlin with the 4-litre Pilding Judd MP72. Oliver's already into kennel then with this big Judd V8 power machine, the very same car which Roger Moran took to the British Championship title back in 1997. Oliver going great guns on his own with the big V8. Currently lies 13th equal in the British Championship after the last round at Gerston Down a couple of weeks ago. He heads for the finish line and it's a 25.32 for Oliver Tomlin. Next to the line it's the revolutionary OMS PowerTech of Trevor Willis. Built and developed by Trevor himself and Steve Owen of OMS, the car features a 2.8 litre version of the Suzuki Hayabusa derived V8 built by PowerTech for the Radical sports car. Virtually unbeatable in the Vauxhall-powered OMS in the 2-litre class in recent years, Aylesbury driver Willis lies 9th overall in the championship. He's rapidly developing this carbon tub car and it can't be long before Trevor takes an outright win in a British runoff. 24.32 leaves him well placed today. Former head of Gloucestershire CID, Chris Merrick is having his best ever season at the wheel of the ex-Roy Lane Gould GR55, powered by a torquey 4-litre Judd V8. Chris Hillclimb to Clubman's Mallock in a single-seater Rover V8 powered Rorke before acquiring the Gould. 5th overall in the championship, he's enjoying a season-long battle with Simon Durling. It's a 24.13. He'll be pleased with that. It's all best at Shelsley. A relative newcomer to British hill climbing at top level, Ferndown's Basil Pitt graduated from a successful career in smaller capacity single-seaters to this state-of-the-art 2.8 litre Nicholson McLaren V8 powered Gould. best season yet, and Basil lies just outside the top 6 in the British Championship, running the smaller version of the NME V8. His time a 24.46. It's frequently the fate of a driver that shares a car with a top championship contender that he tends to be a little bit overshadowed by his teammate. But Martin Grove's driving partner Paul Ranson is always quick at Shelsley Walsh in their shared Gould NME V8. He's pushing hard to keep Groves and Moran in his sights today and shows every sign of doing just that. 23.52 seconds. It's inside the Old Hill record at the start of the day and earns Ranson an extra championship point. Former champion Roger Moran has only once been out of the top 3 since he took the title in 1997. True to form, he currently lies 3rd in this year's series, sharing the Gould NME GR61X with his son Scott. Torn perhaps between ambition for his own success and that of his son, Roger's still one of the quickest drivers around. 23.84 demonstrates exactly that. We've already seen Derek Young's Gould in the hands of his wife Sue, the ladies' record holder. Here's Derek now, who's also enjoyed a lot of success at Shelsley recently as a regular outright winner in club hill climbs. The former British Sprint Leaders champion in his Marriott Clubbins car, Derek's now aboard Graham White Jr.'s championship-winning Gould GR51 chassis. Phenomenal torque from the methanol-fueled 4-litre jug propels the Gould up the finish straight towards what could well be one of the day's front-running times. It's 23.81, that's 4th fastest overall. Alongside Basil Pitt's example, the other Gould on the hills running the smaller capacity 2.8 litre NME engine is that run by Gersten Hillclimb Driver School Chief Instructor Simon Durling. Neat and precise as ever, Durling has yet to better 4th place in the British Championship. That's where he stands at the moment, so could 2007 be his year to grab 3rd? Well, it's another 23-second run for Durling, and like so many other drivers today, another personal best. So now it's all down to the big 2. Martin Groves knows that with Scott Moran on top form, nothing short of another hill record, and that extra championship point will do now. Renowned for putting out all the stops when it matters, Groves is clearly out to turn the tables yet again. It's a 22.86, the first ever sub-23 second run at Shelsley Walsh. Martin Groves has done it again. But it's not all over yet. Scott Moran still has to take his final run. The young pretender to the championship crown has really put the pressure on Groves this year. Can he outrun the double champion just one more time? 22.83. Just 3/100ths of a second is enough to snatch Shelsley's final hill record of the day. With 11 more championship points, Scott Moran still leads the 2007 title chase. And so, amid applause from spectators, marshals and fellow competitors, the British Championship contenders return to the paddock after one of the most exciting days hill climbing ever seen at Shelsley Walsh. We've seen 8 new class records, a new ladies record and a new record for closed cars, not to mention the battle for the outright hill record, which fell no less than 5 times. So congratulations then to all the record breakers, and particularly to Martin Groves and Scott Moran as they continue to run head to head for the 2007 Nicholson McLaren MSA British Hill Climb title.